Ted Lasso, episode 2 of the second season. I love this show. I love what it's doing. This season, in particular, compared to the first one, I think it's going to a lot of interesting places. So, one of the things I noticed that I wanted to bring up before we actually get into this episode, because I think it's kind of important to see the story going forward, that is this idea of comparing it to Star Wars, which I know is weird to say, but 2 episodes have come out from this season. And in both of those episodes, we've got references to Empire Strikes Back. In the first episode, it was Higgins saying he's going to watch the movie with his kids. In the second episode, it was Jamie comparing a bunch of coaches to Yoda. And basically, it's just what does that have to do with Ted Lasso? I think it's just we are showing you the characters you love in their second outing, which is supposed to be the more personable and tragic story. It's just we know the characters already, we've established who they are, why they love each other, what this world is, and now it's the time to kind of bring everything back into a different perspective, which I think the show's doing a great job of portraying, because it's going to a lot of interesting directions this episode, and this season is, I think, a little darker than people were expecting. First off, one of the things I noticed about this episode, not a lot of Rebecca, which, not a bad thing. I understand why she wasn't a big part of this episode. I think we'll be getting more of her later. She's a fun character. I'd love to see more from her, but we did the whole breaking up her boyfriend in the last one. Now we're just reeling in what's coming next for her, which is kind of fun to see. She's doing the online dating thing, which again, I don't want the whole dating narrative to be all she does this season. I hope it's not that case. I don't think it will be, but that's just where she's at right now. She wasn't a big part. Higgins wasn't that big either. The Nate and Will stuff, again, it's very funny, but I hope it doesn't get old fast, because I love Nate, and I love how unaware he is of the situations he's doing to make Will uncomfortable, putting the lavender into the new towels so the players smell different, that can affect their brain. Just the little stuff like that only Nate is doing, that everyone sees you gotta relax, dude. That stuff is funny, and it works really well for this show, and I just really enjoy that. Now, I want to bring this up too, before we continue on. In the last episode, in episode 1, the idea came up twice of the number 1,236. That's the amount of times that Roy Kent swore. That's the amount of times that they were hitting the piece of paper back and forth, Coach Beard and Coach Lasso. I don't know if that means anything, but I noticed that and I wanted to bring it up here. So, this episode delves into kind of 3 separate storylines. The first one being one that I was very impressed with. I didn't expect them to go back to so soon. And that is the story of Jamie Tart. Now, Jamie was a character in the first season. I really enjoyed his arc, because I think he's supposed to be that guy who's not the brightest and he thinks he's entitled. And maybe he is all that in a bag of chips, who really knows? But in this season, we really knock him down a peg, which, again, that's why it feels like the Empire Strikes Back. It's he had his comeuppance in the first one. Now he's being on the level playing field with everyone else. He gets voted off. Lust conquers all. Very funny stuff. He thinks he's going to win it. He gets voted off. His agents drop him. You stop playing for, was it Manchester? Or I think he was playing for a Manchester team, or Winchester. He was playing for one of those teams. He decided to leave. We learn later on why he decided to do that, but he's no longer on that team. He did a bad choice on Lust Conquers All. He is toxic to be with right now, and nobody wants to work with him, and he can't really figure it out. And even when he's walking out of the meeting of the agency, he's just okay, I don't know what to do with this next step in my life. So who does he turn to but Keely? Because Keely is the only person he knows to talk to figure some stuff out. I really like that. Keely's a great character. I can't wait to get back to her in this, but I love that they just did this with Jamie. It's yeah, he learned his lesson. He learned his lesson, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to portray that in this show. What he's going to do next with some of these characters. I really like that. So he does eventually meet up with Ted, and this was probably the best part of the episode for me. It's just Ted and Jamie at the pub, and they're just kind of talking, and Jamie's kind of announces the reason he left the football team I should say, because of his father, and how his father just kept pressuring him to do these things, play this way, do that. Every time you're on the bench, he's keeping minutes so you know how long you're not playing. It stopped being fun for him, and it started being this thing that he got bothered by, and he went on Lust Conquers All to kind of go about and attack his father in a sense. And that's very in character for Jamie. I really like that, and I think Ted does a great job of just showing Jamie, you are a smart guy. You are capable, you are understanding, and I know this is going to hurt you, but I can't have you come back to my team. you know what to do, but it's not going to work out. You're playing at the tragedy of Jamie, which I know some people are like, oh, that's so obvious. But of course it's obvious. We're not supposed to hate this guy. We like Jamie. He's a good character. He's a fun guy. And it works really well in that regard. So Jamie's story does eventually culminate when we talk about Ted's story. And again, Ted is in a really interesting place here where he's a little jealous of the doctor talking to all the players and not really getting a chance to have one-on-ones with them. And basically he's kind of just thinking, how are we going to win this? And he's trying to like talk to the doctor herself and how they kind of like, oh, this is how you break the ice with people, isn't it, Ted? I can't wait to dive into that with you and figure out that stuff that you want to do. And of course, Ted's skeptical about it. That's just classic Ted. I just think this is a really interesting way, and it's a bold choice to take your second season in this direction where Ted is concerned about himself and doesn't think he can do his job as good as he did before. I think that's really fascinating. You're doing something really compelling with that not a lot of shows would do. You're letting Ted be vulnerable in a way he hasn't been before, which is very cool to see. This idea also comes into play when he's talking to the Diamond Dogs. Should we get Jamie back? Because we know Jamie can score. We know Jamie is a good player. Can we get him back? It's going to drop morale here, but we could actually win some games. Instead of just having all these ties, we could actually win something. Do the pros outweigh the cons is basically what that idea comes into place as. Does it? We don't really know, but we have to figure out what the choice is going to be and if that works, how it could portray itself. And the idea comes into play. We got to at least try. So I like the idea. He's kind of talking to the doctor. The doctor is the deciding factor for him. It's just like, are you comfortable doing this forever? Just being in these ties? Do you think you could do more? And should you do more? And of course he should. Like, this needs to happen. They need to do more. So eventually it is decided, to the chagrin of the players, especially Sam, because we see a nice one-on-one where Ted and Sam have a conversation about how Sam does not want Jamie to come back. And Ted's like, he's not. I'm sorry, he's not. Like, if you felt anything other, I like that moment. But Jamie does come back. Jamie has to come back so the team can win some games. That's really good stuff. Like, that is just how you do it, because now you are doing the thing. The first season, Ted won them over, and now he's going to lose them again. And I think that is a very strong choice to make. Very dark. It's not like, murder or death dark, but it's like, that's dark. Ted is going to lose these guys all over again. And I really think that's a smart play for a second season that not a lot of shows would do. I enjoy seeing that a lot. You know what else I enjoy seeing a lot? Is Roy Kent, because this guy got a lot of play in this episode. It was just really fun to see. So he's still coaching his niece's team. He realizes that they're going to get participation ribbons for no reason, and he doesn't really want to do it, but the teacher's kind of like, you should at least try to care. So he kind of fakes the enthusiasm to care, and basically when he comes home one day, he finds that Keely is pleasuring herself. He's like, okay, what are you watching? It's good for me to know this. And what Keely is watching, her kink, is the video of Roy retiring when he's bursting into tears. And he's just so upset that he has to retire from the sport he loves. And he gets so mad. And it's just like, no, I like seeing you vulnerable. That's what turns me on, is just seeing you vulnerable and like yourself with emotion and feeling. And because all of this, he decides he does need to get back into the world of football in some form. So he does take the pundit spot on one of the newscasts, and it's really fun. Okay, I like, a lot of shows do this thing where like one character becomes like the pundit for like everything else going on. It works so well for Roy because he's just so like easygoing about everything. So do you think the team played well? No, they played like shit. They playing like assholes. They don't know what they're doing. They're childish. They're rough. They need the experience and the attitude to come back to that. And it blows up, and Roy becomes a great pundit for that thing. I love it. I can't do Brett Goldstein justice because he just got that character so perfectly. And that entire world just worked so well. And I'm glad this world is back. I love Ted Lasso. And Roy's doing some fun stuff here. And when he comes back to see Keely, he's like, well, you gave me this. I actually had fun. Now I'm going to give you something good. So he puts on her headphones, plays the video, and helps her appreciate him in the way that he appreciates her. That's good. That's great. That's fun. It's sexy, it's cute, it's adorable. This show is great. I'm so glad it's back. I'm just excited to see the way this tension is going to build up. It feels like we're getting a lot of interesting dynamics at play here. Jamie and the team, Ted and the doctor, Will and Nate is an interesting one. I'm going to assume there's going to be some tension, maybe even a love triangle type tension between Keely, Roy, and Jamie, if that's going to be something we build up in a way. I'm very curious to see how that is going to play out. I just really like what the show's doing. This second episode really sold me on this season. I'm really liking what the show's about, what it's playing with. Very curious to see how this is going to go, and I can't wait for the third episode. So that is my review of the second episode of Season 2 of Ted Lasso. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.